Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Billy. I will be your host today. Welcome to our June Training Tuesday event for OU Campus. Today's topic is select lists, and Brian Laird will be your presenter. During the presentation, all participants will be in a listen-only mode as this session is being recorded. If you have a question during the presentation, please use the Q&A function found on the bottom of your screen. We will attempt to address your questions during the presentation. After the formal presentation has ended, we will review and answer all remaining questions. Your presenter today is Brian Laird. Brian, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you, Billy. And as Billy said, today's Training Tuesday is on select lists. So we will be talking about this feature in OU Campus. So let us look at the agenda here. So first thing I want to do is talk about what are select lists, what are we talking about with this functionality feature here. And then we'll go into how do you actually install them, how do you set them up on your pages, and then we'll actually have a demo where we can see it in action. So let's go into it. What select lists are. Very simply, they just allow you to have selectable drop-down lists within your table transformations. So typically in your table transformations, if you just create one and you've seen those before, you might have an accordion or something else that has repeatable elements, and you put in your information into a table field and or a set of table fields, and then the XSL will transform that into some more complex structure. So what this does is this allows you to have some drop downs inside of those table transformations, and it creates a lot of extensibility and additional functionality when you use that particular editing experience. Select lists can be customizable, so you can have people select icons, images, colors, really whatever it is that you can think of in a list that you want to have. And you could also specify a dynamic list of files just by specifying a folder, and it can specify, say, a list of images inside of that folder. So when you're looking at it in a table transformation, this is what it may look like when you have a selection occurring. So the icon in this case is just a an icon that you might select and be part of a box feature that you have on your page. And you could just select from the drop down, choose what it is, and it's going to insert the correct value in the correct spot for you. And it really does a good job of maintaining that integrity instead of the user having to type things out, and really keep it consistent and easy for the users to select. So now that we kind of see what they are, what they look like, let's look a little bit more into how we actually set those up. So if you don't have it already in your implementations, and some of the newer implementations actually have this, you just have to add the following lines to your XSL to be able to have the library available to you. So somewhere in your head code, usually in the common head code area, there just needs to be a reference to the select list CSS. And then in the foot code, we need to have a reference to the JavaScript that actually controls it. So if you don't have jQuery, it is required, but it does only do this on edit. If you notice in both of these code blocks, the test that is being put there is if you're in edit mode only. So this does not go out into your published web page. It is purely for the editing experience within OU Campus in those table transformations. So once you have these two bits of code added to your pages when you're in edit mode, if you need jQuery, you're not using it on your site, again, you can include it right here only in edit mode. It will not get pushed out to your site if that's a concern. If you do have it, then you don't need to add that in there. Once you have it though, then all you need to do is start putting in the correct attributes into your table transformations, and you'll be able to start using them. So what does that look like? In order to add it to a table transformation field, we have an attribute that is custom called data select list. And by putting that attribute on a table data cell, you can call a select list and define what the options it's going to have. So we have two different methods of how we declare them. The first thing is we can just do it inline in the table itself. And what that looks like is you just specify a comma-separated list of the different values that you would have there. So you can see in our table data here, we have the attribute data select list, and we have a bunch of colors that have been specified here. These are just arbitrary values we're using here. It could be whatever values you want to have available to your user. The other way that you can declare a select list is with a JSON file. So you can choose a particular JSON file populated with all the options that you want to have available to the user. And then all you have to do is point to that JSON file. And here you can see how we do that. This is actually calling a rainbow.json file. So here you can see it just says data select list equals rainbow because it is implied that the JSON file is going to be in a particular location. The contents of the JSON are very similar, same options that we had in the inline declaration, but now you're looking at them in a JSON format. And by default, all the JSON files that the select lists are going to be used are in _resources/ou/editor/select lists. You can change this if you want to, but this is where we will go and change any of those, add those in. Since the JSON files are being only used for the select lists, and we're only doing this in edit mode in OU Campus, we actually do not need to publish these out. They will pull from staging. So as soon as you save it in staging, just like you do with your XSL, those options would be available to your users if it's actively being used by a select list. One of the upshots of this is that if you want to change the options the users have, all you have to do is go to a JSON file, change it, and then if you have multiple select lists using this, you only have to change it in one spot, and it'll affect every user and table that is using that particular JSON file for the list. And that's really it. That's all you have to know about using the select lists. So what I want to do now is I want to actually show you what they look like in action. I think it's a lot nicer when you look at them in OU Campus and see how they work. So I'm going to go ahead and change screens here. And now we should be looking, oops, sorry. Now we should be looking over here at OU Campus. So here I have a simple OU Campus site. I have taken from the public GitHub the simple site and put it inside of here. And you can see when I have it, it's just a very simple Bootstrap site, nothing too special about it. Inside, I did add one interior page I called Select Lists, and I have this one table transformation for a card that I've added inside of here. If I go to edit this, this may look familiar to you if you've used a table transformation before, that it's just taking some different fields that the user is expected to enter, and those fields are then, when you preview this, you can see that it is being rendered in this card-like structure. Now you could do something like this with a component, and it's a very good use for a component as well, but it's also a good example of what we can do with select lists. So again, going back into this, you can see maybe I want to change this and I want to change my background color and I want to make it something a little bit darker. Let's just say put a hex value in here. And you can see it's just affecting my card here. So how do we add a select list to this? We're going to have to follow the same steps that we used in the PowerPoint. So the first thing I need to do is I need to make sure that I have my select list, CSS, and JavaScript available to me. So I'm going to add that to my common XSL. So going into my resources, XSL, I'm just going to go to the common XSL here. And all I want to do is inside of my head code that everything's being called here, I'm going to put this reference to the select list. So I have it copied in my clipboard. So there it is. And this is just that link. We have it hosted in our OmniUpdate CDN. So if you just have this link, you can easily add that in if you don't have it already. And then into the foot code, I'm going to paste that other piece. So somewhere in the footer towards the end of my document, I'm going to make sure I have my JavaScript call. This particular site does not have jQuery in it. It's just a very simple site. So I'm going to also go ahead and add a jQuery reference right here at this comment. Once I've done that, I just need to save my XSL, and now I have the ability to add my select lists to my page. So I'm going to jump back over to my page, and I'm going to view the source. And now looking down here, I'm actually going to format this, make it a little bit easier to see. For anybody who's not familiar with that, what I just did there was I just did a Control-A or Command-A to select everything inside of here, and then I did Shift-Tab to automatically format the code inside of the code editor. It's a really useful shortcut that I love to use. So if you don't already know that one, and you deal with any code inside of OU Campus, it definitely makes life a lot easier. Highly recommend it. So now let's go ahead and make one of these table data cells here a select list instead of just having the user type it in like I did with the color. So let's go to where the color is, and let's now add that attribute data-select-list. And now I'm just going to go ahead and put in any colors that I want the users to have. I could put in the list from before, but you know, we could have, you know, some regular colors. Let's just say something like this: yellow, green, oops, and that should be a comma. Blue, indigo, and violet. So let's just say we want to have these colors available here. This is fine because these are CSS friendly colors. So you can type in red. I don't have to have the actual color itself. I could put in the color and, you know, do like the CCC that I have in here currently, but it's not necessary. It's whatever you want to have in there. So I'm just going to go ahead and save this. You can see nothing's really changed yet because I haven't selected anything, but now when I go into edit and I click on this background color, you can now see this nice list that I have of all the options that I have available to me here. So now instead of having the user have to type in any of these values, it becomes as simple as, you know, picking something, say green, and I hit save, and that's probably not the colors you want to have available to your user because that's not too accessible there. But you can change the colors and change the options very easily to make it easy for the user to edit those pieces. So you can see with just a very few little pieces here, it's a lot of power that you can do and add to the availability of what you can give your users, as well as keeping it nice and strict. If I go and, oops, sorry, edit source here again, I could do the same, and we format it there, with these icons. But, you know, there's a lot of different icons that I might want to have available to me. I don't know if I really want to have to type them all out like this. I mean, this was already kind of getting a little bit cumbersome. So maybe we want to do JSON file here instead. And to do that, it's going to be very simple. All I need to do is do that same data select list attribute on it and point to a JSON file. Now, again, let me just show you what I have available to me. I've already added in some JSON files to this particular list. And if I go to that resources, OU, editor, and select list, which is the default spot, I've already added all these JSON files. And inside of this, you can see I have the you know, Bootstrap icons right here. So I could use that and be able to do the different icons there. I could do Font Awesome icons here if we have that. I happen to have that installed on this particular site. So I'll use that just by going FA-icons. So inside of here where I want my icon, I'm just going to go data-select list, and I'm just going to call the name of that file, which was FA-icons. I'll just double check that, FA icons. I don't put the extension on there. It's going to know because of the folder I'm in that it's looking for a JSON file.
Brian,
So once
sorry to
I
interrupt.
save that, yes.
You do have a question from Jerry Solomon. How about key value pairs for options?
Yes, so that is also possible. And the way that you do that is you put in just the key and the value with your colon in there. So if I wanted this one to be red, then what I would do here is I would put in, let's see, the key and the value. I'm probably going to do it backwards, but I believe it's just like this. And I should, I typed it backwards, I think, hold on. But you can just type it in there. Let's see, yep, it's in red. What did I do there? But yeah, you can do the key value. Let me circle back on that and make sure I did that right. But yes, you can put it in there. I thought all I need to do is this. You should be able to do that. I'm not sure what I'm missing there, but yeah, you can do key value pairs where you give it a friendly name. I will circle back on that since I did something different there, but yes, it's definitely possible. Okay, I don't see, oh, red was there. It might have been there a second ago. Try one more time. Might not have scrolled up enough. Okay, and that's where I sometimes get things backwards. Let me try this. There we go. Yeah, I just had it backwards. So you can see here's what I'm selecting, the capital red here, but it's doing the lowercase red as the actual value when I select it, if you can see that. Just had it backwards. All right, good question. And now we got a really bright background here. All right, so going back to the JSON file. So we added the FA icons to our source code. And you can see the FA icons in our data select list here. So now if I edit this and I go to icon, you can see I've got all the icons available inside of that list, and that JSON file are available here. And it also has the benefit of showing me a preview of these icons. So before using select list, if you wanted to accomplish this, you would have to take a list to where the icon list is and then have the user go to that list, copy it in and paste it, or make sure they type it exactly, and then put that in here. In this case, you can make it very easy for somebody to choose the icon they want to have available and then put it in there. So if I want to put cube, it's here. And I do see a question here from Ivanka. It says, can you show us the JSON file where the icons are? Yeah, definitely can. So you can see there's the icon. It was very easy to see here. And if I go back to that JSON file that I had specified right here, this is the JSON file that has it. So it's very simple. You can see here's all the different items here. One other piece that this JSON file has, and I'll go back to it in just a second, is if you notice when I was selecting the icons, it wasn't just the value of the icon, you could see the icon itself. The reason that you see that is because of the very top here, we have what we call line template. So this is going to show what HTML is shown to the user in the interface when you're choosing the select list. So in this case, we're putting in a span with the class for the font awesome, and then this value is coming from the JSON file here, whatever the value is. And then the text is the text that's coming from it. So you can, just like you did with the inline style, where you could do the friendly, the key value pair, it can also have some friendly values that have the value as well as the text on it. If you don't have the pair, it's just going to use the same thing for both, but you can see that there that we have the value and the text inside of here. So this is the actual value you have on there. This example here is how you would show an example of how you would do it and have the text differently. So if I go to the very top of this, and I'll scroll to the top, you can see where it just says no icon. And so it, whoop, the wrong window there, you can see there's that text no icon there. So in this case, you can choose whatever, scroll that, make it a little easier, if you want an anchor or whatever else we want to have there. And so the follow-up question that I see here is, so are the icons added with the CSS? And the answer is yes. So the icons, and if I inspect this, it's just the same way that you would do it any other way. I have in this particular table transformation, it's specified that it's going to output the class here. But you can see here's the output from it. This is the value that I chose was anchor from the select list. And then everything else is the same way that we normally would do it. We're just inserting this via the XSL right here, this value into this HTML structure. So that's your regular table transformation functionality. The select list functionality is just selecting that, and in particular, choosing the CSS here that is being output to show the icon is from that line template here. But the CSS itself is showing it. This is just the output. And I see Kevin Call ask, we're using Font Awesome Pro 5. Will we be able to use it here too? Yeah, so as long as you have the list and you define the list of the icons that you have available, then you can definitely use any list that you want to have. It's not limited to this particular version of Font Awesome or anything else. It just happens to be you put in the list that you want to have and how you want it presented to the user. And then the rest of it is just outputting it the way that you would output it normally. Nothing else would change at that point. If you recall the very beginning at the source of this, and let me save that again. This did not have a select list on it. And so if I get rid of this and I have a table transformation, I'm just looking at this value here and I'm using XSL to output this. So if you have, Font Awesome Pro 5 or whatever you're using, you would still pull this the same way as if you had the user enter this in manually. The difference here is we're just creating a predefined list that the user can pull from that they can select and easily be able to see. But it would be the same idea for that. Good question. Go ahead and save that back. If I wanted to have another JSON file pull, I have this one for colors here. Instead of doing it inline, I could go to do that as well. So let's say if I go like this and I hit edit and I see another question, I'll get to that in just a second here. You can see I can have a set of colors, and in this case, by defining it with that align template, I'm getting that same kind of a functionality where it's a little bit easier for the user to know what it is that they're selecting. So if I want to, choose something maybe light like this Alice blue would probably be a better background for this particular element. It's very easy to select. So the question that I see here says, I assume we should be able to use select lists with components as well. So actually select lists were developed for table transformations, so they currently do not work with components. So if you do want to use this particular functionality, you will want to make sure that you do that with your inside of a table transformation. You can do predefined lists with components. You just won't have that line template functionality. So there's some potential use if you want to use the table transformation in certain situations to provide this particular functionality. this is a good use for that as opposed to a component, depending on what your needs are. And then I have a follow-up question here. It says, can you show the XSL where this table gets processed with the values entered in your example? Yes, I definitely can. So in this particular case, I will go to the resources XSL. In this case, I just have a quick table transformation. And this is the particular one I have here. It's not perfectly clean because I do have some inline styles here. If I was to make this a little bit more robust, there would probably be some more conditional formatting around, you know, if people put in paragraphs or things like that. But it's just a simple, as far as table transformations are concerned, it's just outputting a div card. Putting some different styles on it. You can see here it's pulling from the table transformation from that background color. Here it's pulling the image itself and just sticking it inside of that source of an image tag that I happen to have it max width so it doesn't go outside of my card. I have the font awesome that we've been looking at here. It's just being output into that font awesome class. And then here's where that major field is, which we were looking at, the captions being output into a paragraph field here. And then we have our button link where we have the different elements of the link I'm just specifically targeting in this case. So that's the XSL that's being used there. And then I see a question. Yeah, you're welcome, Sylvia. I saw a question there. All right. That was actually, I guess, a thank you question. I appreciate that. And then I see another open question here from Caleb Hardin that says, is the non-minified JS file available for us to view? It could be helpful in adding additional functionality ourselves. I can get that. I don't have it available at the moment, but we could definitely make sure that that's available for you to be able to look at if you want to tinker around with it. All right. So that's kind of the main stuff with it. If we look back at our table that we've been working with here, we can add as many of these select lists to the different fields that we want to have available to the user. If we want to, say, do the accounting, we could use that data select list JSON file that I had. I said JSON, don't want to type it though. And I had that one was called majors, and we could have that in there as well. But there's one more kind of interesting thing that I wanted to show here, which I'll do just to show that it's pulling from a different JSON here and be thorough. Now you can see I have just a basic list. A list like this is something that you would commonly see in more of a component where it's just the list of elements that you can have here. The thing that the select list has here is you can see these different pieces here. I do see another question. It says, can we use select lists in assets? I don't believe so, because it does require that JavaScript to run, and when you're editing the asset, you are not actually running the XSL of the page. So you have to be able to have the XSL call that JavaScript and the JavaScript be able to run to be able to have this functionality where we're kind of injecting this list here and taking whatever the user selects and putting it in there. So that would be the piece that you would need there, which is kind of a missing link if you're editing an asset at this time. So again, currently it's only for table transformations, but it does add that nice functionality there. So I'm going to go ahead and show one more thing here. If I look here at my table and source once more, you can see right now I'm just pulling an image here. And I could make this something where the user just chooses a link and does a file chooser to an image and so on. And that would work just fine. One thing that's really cool about select lists is we can actually define a select list that pulls from all images within a particular folder and presents that as an option. So that's a really nice thing here. So I happen to have one of those set up here. So I'll show you what it looks like, and then I'll show you the code. So again, data select list. And in this case, I have one, I'm just calling it sample images. And what that does is it's going to call my JSON file just like all the other ones. And this particular JSON file, you'll see, is giving me images to choose from. So I can actually see a preview of what image I'm selecting through the list here. So as long as this isn't a super huge list of images that you want to have here, this would be a very nice use. If you have a folder that has hundreds of images in it, it might be hard to scroll through and find the one you want. So definitely recommend stay organized. But let's say if we want to choose this football player instead, I'm just choosing the select list, and now I have a different image here. So the way that this works is we're structuring the JSON file slightly different. We have a different value that we're putting in there. So let me go to that JSON file. So I'm going to go to my resources, OU editor select lists. And in this case, I had my sample images JSON, and you'll see there's a path in here. So again, I'm using the line template like we did before. And you can see this is what I am putting in as my value. So this is what the user sees. So since I have an image tag, that's why the user is seeing the dropdown as images as opposed to just the text. And then the path here is just the path to this folder. In this case, I just have 4 images inside of my resources images. You would probably want to do a dropdown or something like that. But this would be your file path to that folder, wherever you want to pull your images from. If I go to it really quick, go to resources images, you can see here's the 4 images that I had available to me. And all it's doing is just scanning the files in there. And when I save it, you can see it's just saving that value of that path in there. So it's not actually saving the full image as a node, it's just saving the path. So this could be used for other file types if you wanted to select from, say, a list of includes or something else that you're pulling from, whatever the files that you are. Images tend to be the most useful one that I've seen so far, but the sky is really the limit of what you want to do. It would just do all the different files inside of it, and then you can just choose what you want to have, select it, and it's easy and able to go. I also had a nice coworker that was listening in here, and we do have the unminified JavaScript file right here at the cdn.omniupdate.com/selectlist v1/select-list.js. So there's no min on there. So if you do want to see it, here's the whole file here available for you to reference and play with if you want to look at it further. All right, so that really, when you look at it, there's a lot of functionality available with the select lists. I particularly enjoy the fact that you can have these line templates where you get the different views to the user to give some context to what they're selecting as opposed to just the values like this one has. You can have the colors, whatever else it happens to be. And it really kind of extends table transformations and adds a lot extra nice user experience there with not a lot of extra work for the user to set up for whoever is going to create this. So that's really all there is about select lists that you need to know. You can have fun, play with them on your sites, and it's a cool thing. Just remember to use them inside of your table transformations. If you do utilize it in some different way and you do some cool implementation, I'd love to hear about that, and send us a message or post it on the OmniUpdate community network or something like that. I'd love to hear about it. But these are some of the really nice uses that we've had. So with that, I do want to pass it back over to Billy so we can wrap this up.
Great. Brian, thank you very much. That was absolutely amazing. And thanks to all the wonderful questions we had. I love it when the audience is engaged and involved. We obviously have a very well-versed audience today. We've got some great questions. So thank you all for attending. This presentation was recorded, and so the presentation and the PowerPoint slides will be made available on our support site by the end of the day today. So if there's anything that you missed, you'd like to watch it again, go get those links and the snippets of code that Brian demonstrated for you. They'll all be available on the support site as well. So if there aren't any further questions, we'll go ahead and wrap this up. And thank you all for your time and attendance today. Thank you, Brian. Brian, are you still up there?
I am still here.
We have one question just popped up from Caleb.
Yeah. Yeah, is there any further functionality for things like checkboxes? At this point, it's just drop-down lists, but you know, if you feel ambitious and want to play with the basic idea of it and make it work with a checkbox, you know, I'd definitely love to hear about it, but it's not implemented at this time.
Another great question, Caleb. Thank you.
If anybody else has any other questions, yeah, definitely, you know, let me know. I'm happy to answer those. If you think of a question later and you just, darn, I just couldn't get to it here, you know, feel free to let us know and we can, you know, have our support team can definitely help you out with that as well.
Kevin, for the support files, which support files are you speaking of? JSON. Brian?
Yeah, so you know, I will definitely send you know, Billy all the resources and files that we had for this. Assuming we can have that up available for people to use.
Okay.
The actual files themselves of the references to the select lists and everything are in the PowerPoint. So just the JSON files themselves, I think, would be the only piece that's missing there. That yeah, I can definitely make sure that that's available for you.
Great. We'll add that definitely to the information we put on the site for today's presentation. You're welcome, Kevin.
And you're welcome, Kevin.
All right. Is anything else that we can answer before we end things today? All right, looks like we are done with the questions. Again, if something does come up that you wanted to ask and you forgot, just contact us and we'll be sure to get those questions answered for you. And again, check out the support site. All of the information from today's presentation from the video will be posted by the end of today. So thank you all again. Thank you again, Brian, for a wonderful presentation. And we'll see you again next month on the 30th, where we're going to talk about webhooks. So don't miss it. It's brand new and it's very exciting. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.